Okay, so in regards to Mexico, Juan, what were you saying?
Well, in Mexico, we have different areas in the country that show themselves like pro-gay rights, not so much pro-gay rights. But mainly, I think that Mexico has an open, wide society about gay rights. We don't try or tend to difference uh, these labels on people. In Mexico City, actually, gay marriage it's allowed, and a lot of states throughout Mexico are looking into the subject, and I think that in very good perspective for gay people. I don't know if it's politically correct to say gay people, but it's just maybe I get lost in translation here. So Mexico, it's although it's a very conservative country, Mexico, I think it's very respectful of others' opinions and specifically into the terms of gay rights. I think it's very people are very respectful about it. It I mean, I think it's a complex subject, not only in the U.S. but in Mexico as well, and maybe not in everywhere else in the world. Um, but in Mexico, we have some states that are very modern in terms of people's rights and gay rights. Mexico City is very advanced in that matter. I don't know if you know something about that.
No, but I mean, go ahead. Definitely, feel free to share with people because we really don't get that angle of the story too often. So, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, in Mexico City, it's you can take it like any other city, big city in the world. I mean, L.A., New York, Paris, London. It's a very urban city. It's a very advanced and modern city. You can find stuff in Mexico City that you can find in anywhere else in the world. So that also translates into the way of living that Mexico City has. You know, um, gays, straight, everybody's living together there, and in a atmosphere of respect and well-being for everybody else. Mexico City was the first state in Mexico that allowed gay marriage. I don't know about the dates, but I think it's like a couple of years ago that it was officially announced by the government that it was going to be possible. This is not possible, or this is not yet possible in all Mexico, like as a country. Every state, much like the United States, has its own constitution, a state constitution, and it has to be modified from time to time to get this, you know, I forgot the word, but to be the same in every state now.
Right. Right. Well,
In marriage, but I'm sure that Mexico City is one of them.
right. So, Juan, what I would ask next is, how do you think the public is perhaps misunderstanding this issue? What about this issue do people misunderstand about it?
I think that the first thing that people misunderstand about gay marriage, like a specific subject, is that everybody should be able to choose who is going to be living all his life or a part of it. And it shouldn't be an issue if this person is the same sex of the other. I think it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of love. It's a matter of convivence. I mean, it's something that it shouldn't be an issue, and I think that for most of my friends too. I don't know if I'm liberal, I don't know if I'm conservative about it, but I can tell you that it shouldn't be an issue. To talk about same sex, wanting to join together in marriage, it shouldn't be an issue. It should be like everybody else. Everybody else um, has the right to actually choose who's going to spend the rest of their lives with. I think that's the first thing. It's
Juan, are you there?
need some.
Juan, do you hear me? Your video's frozen. Hey, Anthony.
Howdy.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. So Juan is broadcasting from Mexico, so his internet kind of timed out once already. I'm sure he's going to rejoin the chat, but without a doubt, you're more than welcome to speak with him. Thankfully, your connection's back up, I see, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I hope he's going to be able to come back in because I wanted to get someone to speak with. But let's see. Okay, so Anthony, I'll just why don't I just pick up where I just left off in terms of the question I just asked Juan? Okay, sound good?
Wait, could you say that again?
Yeah, I just said why don't I'm going to pick up where I left off with Juan just now. And what I asked him was.
Okay. Cool.
What I asked him was, what do you think people misunderstand about this issue, about this, subject? How the public portrays it. Can you talk about that?
How the public portray.
Gay rights in America. What is the public misunderstanding about this topic as a whole?
Oh, right. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is the idea that gay rights are about special privileges, or on the one hand, or the other hand, kind of like assault on anybody else's rights or anybody else's marriage or anybody else's place or role in society. So I guess to the first thing, one of the biggest things is making sure people understand that gay people don't want anything special. They don't want any, special accommodations, any special tax privileges or privileges. They just want to be everyone else. We want our marriages, our unions to be recognized like anyone else's. We want to be able to live our lives without fear of being fired just for being who we are, or being victims of violence just for being who we are. And that in order to grant these things, or to make sure that the law recognizes these things, doesn't require anything special. So that's the first thing. And then the second is the fact that it doesn't hurt anybody else if gay people can get married. It doesn't. Your churches are going to be forced to marry us. Your reverend, your minister, whatever. You're not going to be forced to go out and accommodate or whatever else the word is. Your children aren't going to be forced to do a gay marriage. All in all, it's just basically there's this idea that straight people are somehow under attack, or that religious America is somehow under attack, which is all false. And making sure people understand that that's false is, I think, probably the biggest misunderstanding of faith.
Okay, great. Juan, did you hear Anthony? Are you coming in now? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right,
I heard him.
Okay, great. Did you have any initial remarks off of what he had to say, or do you want me to move on to a different question? You guys can kind of talk amongst one another. And Anthony, Juan's broadcasting from Mexico, and he was talking about kind of how Mexico interprets this subject. So I guess, the next question I'll ask, and you both can kind of take the discussion from here, would be, what is your stance on the religious angle that individuals will take when it comes to this subject? Do you see any justification to their argument that this is religion wise, they really can't support stuff along the lines of gay rights or gay marriage? And Juan, do you want to maybe take that question?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that religion is itself a whole topic to be discussed. But in terms of gay marriage or gay relationships, I think that uh, specifically Catholic Church, it's being every day a little bit more open to it. They cannot go ahead and from day to night um, say, okay, we're good with this, we appreciate this into our church. But I think that eventually this is going to be a subject that won't be ignored, and eventually they're going to have to face it, and they're going to have to embrace it. I think so. Why? Because the world's moving that way. Uh, Law, politics, society, it's moving in that way, and somehow religion has to catch up to it. I don't think that it will be left out. Somehow approved.
Are you done? No one interrupt.
Hello? You here?
Yeah, Anthony, did you have a response to that?
Yeah, I largely agree. I think that there's going to be I guess a reckoning, if you will, for many churches and denominations, I guess, where a lot of people who are religious will grapple to reinterpret or reapply or try to understand anew how the principles of their faith tradition apply to what is essentially a changing world. And I'm sure that many denominations and many churches and many religious groups that will fight this until the end. But if what we're seeing in America and what we're seeing in Europe and what we're seeing in Latin America is any indication, a lot of people are just going to learn that there's plenty in their scriptures to teach them and to teach them how to sort of deal with this new consensus, to teach them how to apply their principles to what is essentially a new world, essentially a new social understanding that they didn't necessarily have before. And a large part of that, I think, will be coming to understand that it's not necessarily that the scriptures are wrong. This isn't. I don't really think anyone's necessarily going to come to think that their religion is wrong. But it is going to come to understand that these principles that Christ taught them if they're Christian, or that they got from Muhammad if they're Muslim, and so on, are being applied to a world they didn't properly understand before. But it's kind of like how once birth control was invented, Christians had to figure out how that fit into their understanding of their religion. And before that, once there was all these different races living together, they had to figure out how that fit into their tradition. Once they understand that, gay people are essentially the same as them and want the same kinds of things and have the same kinds of relationships, they're just going to expand the truth they understand to what's essentially the world.
Right, and just so you know, Juan is logging out and then logging back in. It looks like he's back in the room, so I'm sure he's going to load his video any second. So what I will do is I'll ask my next question. My next question that I wanted to maybe cover would be, Can you talk about Juan? I mentioned it to Juan before, and maybe you can educate him a bit, Anthony, because I wasn't an expert, unfortunately. I just have the questions. But what I was going to say is, would you mind talking about the recent updates that have taken place in Washington on this subject, where it was really in the news for a little while recently? And then maybe you and Juan can talk a bit about it. Would you mind going over that?
In Washington State or DC?
DC, DC.
Matt?
Yeah. I said DC, Anthony. Did you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your connection is a little bit choppy.
Sorry.
My end or yours. In DC, I guess in particular with the marriage cases, is sort of provoking a very fascinating argument because you get all these lawmakers weighing in, but they're not actually weighing in on any policy that they're going to shape. Nobody, as far as I know, is talking about the Respect for Marriage Act, which is kind of still out there. I think it gets brought up every so many conversations. It might even been introduced this one. I don't know. But it's right now all the chatter is over a Supreme Court case, which will do or not do whatever it does, and won't really have anything to do with what the legislatures think or want. So I think what will be interesting from the DC side is seeing how the tone develops between now and whenever those decisions come out, which could be any time between now and I think June. Also, depending on how those decisions do come out, like if someone decides to reintroduce the Respect for Marriage Act and DC gets a foot over that, it'll be fascinating to see how that gets discussed, how the various camps break down, the reasons that people have for opposing or supporting it. If other laws come up, like the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, that comes back up, and what people say about that, and how that all plays out. But I think what's kind of interesting is that for now, none of that's come up. I don't think that anybody has any plans on bringing any of those things up. So it's, on the one hand, a very lively conversation in Washington, and on the other hand, no one's really talking about things that lawmakers in Washington can do. So I would love to see that change, but I guess we'll see.
Juan, do you want to respond on any of that? And I'm going to just keep my camera off because you said the connection might have been a little weak. So, Juan, did you want to ask Anthony about any of that stuff regarding what's been happening in D.C.?
Well, I see a lot of similarities in what Anthony just said in Mexico. What's the general society's point of view in this matter? I mean, I think in Mexico we have much more like the U.S., a very conservative part of society that is against the subject, and we have also a very liberal part of society that is pro the subject. But in general, I mean, I have read something over the internet and blogs and some newspapers. But what's the general opinion about it? I mean, the public's opinion.
Guys, are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
Yeah.
My question was that, what's the general opinion, the public's opinion? I mean, how is this conversation about it?
Anthony, you want to answer?
Was it a question to me?
Yeah.
So in the U.S., generally speaking, there's definitely a sense that this issue is inevitable. That's the word, inevitable, that's being thrown around. There's been a few different polls ranging that says support is anywhere from 50%, I think, in the gas poll, to as high as like 58 or some odd percent. And what's particularly interesting is obviously, as you've been hearing a lot, young people, my generation, are overwhelmingly in favor, and that support is growing. You have support growing among young conservatives. You have support growing even among young evangelicals, who are, in theory, the most religiously conservative people in our generation. But even a majority of them support this. And the interesting thing is that across every demographic, the support is growing, and everyone knows it. And the fact that everyone knows is pretty key. So you see this tonal change, and you see a lot of these people who even still oppose gay marriage, like changing the way they talk about it, sort of either de-emphasizing it or shifting their tone downwards. And you see a lot of people who support it getting much more confident, much more brazen, and much more energetic. So I would say that public support right now is very strong, and there's definitely a sense that like we're close to something big. But so far, as best I can tell, that hasn't really translated into any legislative stuff in Washington, at least. We are getting marriage bills, and I think the civil union bills out in the state to deal with the state. But in D.C., as of now, most of the popular energy is focused on, I guess, keeping pressure on the Supreme Court, insofar as ordinary people and public opinion can actually pressure the Supreme Court, which is very unclear.
Okay. All right.
Right. So guys, yeah. So the next thing that I would ask is, Juan and Anthony, where do you kind of see this issue going over the next 10 years? Can you kind of give us your sort of insight into the future on, how you think this subject will transpire over the coming years? Like if you had to, sort of put your expert opinion on that question, and maybe, Juan, maybe you could go first.
All right. Okay. I don't think I'm an expert. I'm just a regular guy with an opinion. But I think that it's two things that are taken into account here. The first one is that the discussion, the conversation is just it's something that's going right now. It's something that it's getting media attention, and it's something that is going to stick around for a while. So it's going to be, this conversation is going to be evolving from day to day, and I think that we're going to see every day more and more cases of gay couples that are being successful, that are being respectful, that are being really, really society approved for, like, I don't know if that's a world term, but I mean, it's going to be, the information is going to be exposed from day to day in terms of, this is not a subject. It's not going to be a subject anymore. So that's the first thing that I'm seeing. The second thing that I'm seeing is that politics are going to get into this subject, because it's profitable in terms of politics. That maybe before they didn't have the chance to take on them. So politics and politicians are going to be looking into this like a political opportunity for them. So eventually, it's going to transform from a social issue to a political issue, and some politics are going to be against it, and some politics are going to be forward. So I think if you take into account these two sides of the history of the story, society from one side and from the other side, politicians, I think it's going to be a matter of time that this is not going to be an issue anymore. That's my point of view.
I second a little bit of that in the U.S. and in the 10 years, I don't think this would be an issue at all. If the trend continues for the next 10 years, like the past for the last 10, 20 years, I expect that either gay marriage will be legal everywhere, in which case there will be nothing to talk about, or there'll still be some states where still, I guess we fall out on a state-by-state basis, but for the most part, like, there will be no national politician who are winning any vote based on this at all. And as, in 10 years, my generation will be actually think Congress will have a bit more power than we do now. And so this just radically becomes not only a non-issue, but something where I wish if you're not with the program, you're just not even relevant. And it'll be funny to look back on all this now, because I think looking back on today, from 10 years from 10 years out, looking back 10 years ago, from 10 years out, it'll be difficult even to remember and understand and convey how hard the fight was, how crazy the rhetoric was. It just won't be the way that anybody thinks about it, anybody talks about it anymore.
Right. All right, great. Hey, Juan, you back? All right, great.
But also, I actually, okay.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, I was going to say that I do think that the social issues will still be an important thing. They'll just be different. So you have on the one hand, like, all these people who are saying that, like, you should get married, you should have kids, you should settle down and do the right thing. And basically live a 1950s ideal, but the inclusive version. And you're going to have people who are going to be very much about, like, no, that's, people actually shouldn't get married. People actually shouldn't be married. People actually shouldn't, do all of these other things. And that the government actually shouldn't give marriage all of the incentives and the rights and privileges that it currently has. So I fully expect that the fight will actually morph into a broader discussion about what marriage is, its role in society, and whether or not we might want to start rolling steps back. And if and when that does happen, that's going to be a very fascinating fight where I think you're going to see a lot of different groups realigning. A lot of the social groups, what are today called social conservatives, like a lot of gay groups today, and with maybe some certain kinds of libertarians align with certain kinds of leftists over like the government out of marriage and all that. So where that goes is fascinating.
Juan, are you there? Juan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Did you want to respond to anything that Anthony just said, or I could bring up another question? What I was just going to say is, you guys, there's a few people that are inside the chat room that are enjoying the discussion. So by all means, you guys can continue with your conversation. I'm going to pose one more question, and in a few minutes, I need to actually run and get on a call, unfortunately. So, by all means, you're able to continue speaking. I'm going to record for a few more minutes. But, I guess the last thing that I would ask you guys to maybe address, is the subject that probably gets the most coverage, which is the idea of, should gay marriage be allowed? And would you guys mind sort of addressing and analyzing that topic? I know it's a big one, but kind of giving us your take on it, and if it should be allowed and how it should be handled. And I just want to also thank you both for your time, and I'll obviously be in touch with each of you, and we're more than happy to have you back on again.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Anthony, if you want to start first.
Sure. So I think that gay marriage should happen. That is a good thing that will happen to this country and to every other country where it comes up. Um, Precisely because it'll start a conversation about marriage. Kind of picking up from the previous point I was making. We, in the U.S. at least, are all aware that the divorce rate is rising. That a lot more kids are born in ideal circumstances, and there are all kinds of societal ills that are related to the breakdown of the family. And if nothing else, the discussion about marriage that we're having right now will hopefully spawn an ongoing conversation about how we can strengthen the institution, how we can strengthen families from the policy level, from federal down to local, as well as in terms of what we do as people living in communities. And once gay marriage is a realized thing, I think it will eventually be realized everywhere. It'll be a lot easier for people to focus more purely and honestly on that question without getting bogged down into the whole, like, do you like gays, do you hate gays, all that nonsense. And I think it's a conversation we need to have because the state of the American family is not good right now if you're not wealthy and against privileged on slaves. And it's about time that we actually figured out how we're going to address that in our 21st century vision of what America is going to be and what our social contract is going to be forward.
Juan, do you want to speak on that concept? Hey Juan, are you there?
Yes, yes. Actually, I agree with what Anthony just said. I think that when it comes to marriage, I think that there are deeper issues about it than just legalizing gay marriage. I think that inside marriage city, and we have to look out for stuff like divorces and all that stuff that is, like Anthony said, raising up right now. So I think that eventually gay marriage is going to be a reality throughout the world. And discussion about it. That the main thing that we have to look into it's rid of labels. I don't like to label that as gay marriage. I have to admit that I hate that label. Gay rights, gay marriage, gay everything. I mean, we are people, and we should be taking into account sexual preferences. Gay marriage, it's happening whether somebody like it or not. So I don't see a reason not for it to happen. I don't see a reason not for two people, same sex, same gender, should be together legally if they can do it physically. So I think that eventually it's going to be a reality. I think that eventually law is going to protect them. And meanwhile, in the meantime, the discussion that is going to take place is going to be very enlightening for all of us. Those people that is pro gay marriage, those people that are con gay marriage. So I don't think it's going to be more than a matter of time that gay marriage is going to be a reality in all the world. That's it.
Okay, great. So here's what I was gonna say, guys. Since I have to get running, we've been speaking for over a half hour, which is great. Why don't we plan to be in touch, and we'll arrange for another discussion next weekend. I'm happy you were able to make it, Juan, and Anthony, you were able to make it on such short notice. And if you guys want to continue your discussion, you're more than welcome to. If you want to hit on any specific subjects, but otherwise, I'm gonna end the recording and head out on my individually myself. I'm gonna do that. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye bye.